My father didn't call. He didn't even text. He waited until I stopped by the house with groceries, like I'd done every Sunday for years, before he delivered it with a shrug, like he was mentioning the weather. "I know you paid off the $680,000, he said, wiping his hands on a kitchen towel. "But your mother and I decided the house is going to Colton as his graduation present." I blinked. It took a full 5 seconds for the words to land. Then he added, without hesitation, "And you're not invited to the party. It's a family-only vibe, and you tend to complicate things." My mother didn't look up from rinsing dishes at the sink. Colton, my brother, sat at the kitchen table scrolling on his phone, pretending he didn't hear a single word. I stood very still. 5 years of double shifts. 5 years of skipping vacations. 5 years of funneling every extra dollar into that mortgage, because I couldn't watch my parents lose the only home we'd ever had. And now they were handing it to my brother, the same brother who couldn't keep a part-time job or finish a semester without dropping half his classes. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Instead, I turned my head toward the living room where my Uncle Raymond sat in the old recliner, arms crossed, watching everything unfold. "Want to tell them?" I asked quietly, "or should I?" He raised an eyebrow, smirked the smallest smirk, and shook his head, as if to say, "Not yet. Let them dig deeper." I knew then, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And 3 days later, at the graduation party they banned me from, everyone in that backyard learned exactly why. But let me back up. People always assume I was the high achiever, the responsible one. But no, that wasn't it. I was simply the one who refused to let our family fall apart when everything went sideways. When I was 29, my father lost his position at the manufacturing plant in Cedar Falls, Iowa. My mother's hours at the hospital got cut to part-time. They were 4 months behind on the mortgage and days away from losing the house. They didn't tell anyone. Not even Colton. They planned to let foreclosure run its course, as Dad put it. Just accept defeat and move into some rental apartment across town. My uncle, my mother's older brother, was the one who pulled me aside after Sunday dinner one night. He'd found the overdue notices stuffed in a drawer while looking for batteries. "They're drowning," he told me on the front porch. "But they're too proud to admit it." At that time, I'd just gotten promoted to senior logistics coordinator. I had savings, a steady salary, benefits. So I stepped in. Quietly. No drama. No announcements. The bank agreed to restructure the loan if someone with strong credit co-signed. That someone was me. But here's what my family never knew. Uncle Raymond insisted we set up a protective agreement, one that tied my financial contributions to partial ownership. It wasn't about taking the house. It was about legal protection, ensuring no one could pull something reckless down the line. I didn't think I'd ever need it. I thought gratitude would be enough. I was wrong. My father dismissed my sacrifice like it was dust on the counter. When he said, "We are giving it to your brother," he didn't pause. He didn't hesitate. He didn't even blink. It was rehearsed. They had planned this. Probably for weeks. "The house should stay with the child who plans to raise a family," my mother said softly, still not meeting my eyes. "Colton has Amber now, a future ahead of him. You're independent." Independent. Their polite word for alone, less important, optional. "It's not personal, Danny," Colton added from the table, finally glancing up from his phone. His tone was casual, almost bored. "It just makes sense, you know? You've got your career and everything. I need stability." Stability. The man who'd been fired from 3 retail jobs in 2 years was lecturing me about stability. "Besides," my father continued, folding his arms, "it's better if you don't come to the party. Your presence makes things awkward. We don't want tension on Colton's big day." I felt my chest tighten. Not from sadness. From pure, cold clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't them being thoughtless or forgetful. This was deliberate. They had written me out of the family narrative and replaced me with the son who'd contributed nothing, but showed up with the right relationship status. I looked at Uncle Raymond again. He was watching my father with the kind of expression you see on poker players. Calm, unreadable, waiting for the other person to overplay their hand. "You sure about this, Frank?" Uncle Raymond asked, his voice low and steady. My father stiffened. It's our decision, Raymond. Not yours. Amham. Uncle Raymond nodded slowly. Just wanted to make sure you understood what you're doing. I understand perfectly, Dad snapped. This is our house. We'll do what we want with it. Right. Uncle Raymond stood up, stretching his back. Well, I'll be at the party anyway. Wouldn't miss it. My father frowned. It's invitation only. Colton invited me last week, Uncle Raymond said smoothly. Texted me himself. Colton looked up, confused. Yeah, I guess I did. Uncle Raymond gave me the smallest wink as he walked toward the door. I grabbed my purse and followed him out. We didn't speak until we reached his truck parked on the street. They really think they can do this, I said, voice shaking. They think a lot of things, Uncle Raymond replied, leaning against the driver's door. Doesn't make them true. What do we do? He pulled a folded envelope from his jacket pocket. We let them throw their party, he said. We let them make their big announcement in front of everyone. And then, he tapped the envelope. We remind them what the law actually says. I stared at the envelope. Inside were copies of every document we'd signed 5 years ago. The agreements. The terms. The ownership clauses. 3 days, Uncle Raymond said. That's all we have to wait. I nodded. 3 days. And in those 3 days, my parents would host the celebration of the year. They would brag. They would boast. And they would have no idea what was coming. The next 72 hours felt like watching a stage being set for a play I wasn't invited to. My father sent out invitations, printed ones, the fancy kind with embossed lettering. My mother posted photos on Facebook, tables arranged in the backyard, string lights hung between the oak trees, a banner that read "Congratulations Colton" stretched across the back porch. Colton himself posted a photo of the house with the caption, "Grateful to be inheriting the family home. New chapter starts here. House with flower, person with praying hands." The comments poured in. So proud of you. Your parents raised you right. What a blessing. I watched it all from my apartment across town, sitting on my couch with a glass of wine, feeling like I was observing strangers. Aunts I hadn't spoken to in years commented with heart emojis. Cousins congratulated him. Old neighbors from Elmwood Street chimed in with memories of Colton as a kid, conveniently forgetting he'd once backed into Mrs. Calloway's mailbox and never apologized. Each post was another match tossed toward a pile of dry wood. And I just waited. Uncle Raymond checked in every day. You doing okay? He asked on Tuesday morning. I'm fine, I said. Weirdly calm, actually. Good. That means you're ready. When do we move? Saturday. 2 o'clock. That's when your dad's planning the big speech. How do you know? Because he told me, Uncle Raymond said with a chuckle. Wanted to make sure I'd be there to see Colton step into his legacy. I almost laughed. His legacy. Let him have his moment, Uncle Raymond said. Right up until it's not his moment anymore. On Friday night, I got a text from Colton. Hey, just so you know, it's nothing personal. Mom and Dad just think this is what's best for everyone. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed back, see you tomorrow. He didn't respond. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and a light breeze, the kind of day that makes you think everything will go smoothly. I wore jeans and a simple blouse. Nothing fancy. I wasn't there to impress anyone. Uncle Raymond picked me up at 1:30. You ready? He asked as I climbed into the passenger seat. Very, I said. He smiled. Good. Stay close to the fence line. When I call for you, walk in. Don't rush. Let them see you. I nodded. We drove in silence through Cedar Falls, past the high school, past the old diner where Colton used to work for 3 weeks before quitting, past the park where we used to play as kids. Everything looked the same. But nothing was. When we pulled up a block away from the house, I could already hear the music. Laughter. The hum of conversation. Uncle Raymond parked and turned to me. This is going to get loud, he said. You sure you want to do this? I looked at him. They made it loud the moment they decided to erase me, I said. I'm just turning up the volume. He grinned. That's my niece. We got out of the truck. And we walked toward the party that was about to implode. The backyard was packed. Relatives I hadn't seen in years crowded around picnic tables. A DJ played classic rock from a speaker setup near the garage. The smell of burgers and hot dogs filled the air. My father stood near the porch steps, holding a microphone, grinning like a politician at a campaign rally. Colton stood beside him, one arm around Amber, a blonde girl in a sundress who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. My mother was near the drink table, chatting with Aunt Lorraine and Cousin Natalie. Nobody saw me yet. I stood outside the fence line, partially hidden by Uncle Raymond's truck, watching through the gaps in the wooden slats. Uncle Raymond squeezed my shoulder once, then walked through the side gate into the yard. A few people greeted him. He waved, smiled, and made his way toward the porch where my father was getting ready to speak. My father tapped the microphone. All right, everyone. Can I have your attention? The music stopped. People turned. Conversations died down. First of all, my father began, thank you all for being here. Today is a big day for our family. We are celebrating Colton's graduation from state. Applause erupted. Colton waved awkwardly. But we are also celebrating something even bigger, my father continued, his voice swelling with pride. Today, we are passing down this home, our family home, to Colton. This house has been in our lives for over 20 years, and now it's his to build his future in. More applause. Someone shouted, "That's amazing." My mother beamed. Colton looked stunned, like he still couldn't believe his luck. And my father stood there basking in the moment like a king bestowing a crown. This is what family is about, he said. Sacrifice. Legacy. Giving the next generation a strong foundation to build on. I felt my jaw tighten. Sacrifice. He had the audacity to use that word. Then Uncle Raymond stepped forward. Frank, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Before this goes any further, you might want to explain to everyone how you plan to give away a house you don't legally have the right to transfer. The crowd went silent. People turned. The DJ stopped mid-track. My father's face flushed. What are you talking about, Raymond? Uncle Raymond pulled a manila folder from under his arm. These, he said, holding it up, are the agreements signed 5 years ago. The ones that kept this house from being seized by the bank. The ones that list Danielle as partial owner and financial guarantor. Murmurs spread through the crowd like wildfire. She saved the house? Someone whispered. Wait, what? I didn't know that. My father sputtered. That was supposed to be private. That was supposed to be honored, Uncle Raymond corrected, his voice sharp now. But since we are making public announcements about who owns what, I figured everyone should know the truth. My mother's face went pale. Colton looked at Amber, then at my father, confused. Aunt Lorraine whispered something to Natalie, who looked toward the fence, toward me. Uncle Raymond turned and called out, clear and strong. Danielle, you can come in now. I took a breath. Then I pushed open the gate and stepped into the backyard. Every single person turned to look at me. The silence was deafening. I walked slowly across the grass. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. My father stood frozen on the porch, microphone still in his hand, his face a mixture of shock and fury. My mother looked like she might faint. Colton stared at me like I'd just walked out of a nightmare he thought he'd escaped. Uncle Raymond stepped aside, giving me space near the porch. I looked up at my father. Hi, Dad, I said quietly. Nice party. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. You weren't supposed to be here, he finally said, his voice tight. I know, I replied. You made that very clear. Aunt Lorraine cleared her throat. Frank, what's going on? My father ignored her. Raymond, this is a family matter. It is a family matter, Uncle Raymond interrupted. Which is why your daughter, the one who saved this house, deserves to be here. She didn't save anything, my father snapped. She helped. That's all. I paid off $680,000, I said, my voice steady. I signed as co-owner. I restructured the loan. I made every payment for 5 years while you rebuilt your finances. Someone gasped. Cousin Natalie whispered, "Oh my God." My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Danielle, this isn't the time." "Then when is the time, Mom?" I asked, turning to her. "When you're handing over the deed. When Colton moves in. When do I get to exist in this family again?" Colton stepped forward, his face red. "This is my graduation party. This is my house," I shot back. "Legally. On paper. In every way that matters." "That's not true," my father said, but his voice wavered. Uncle Raymond held up the folder again. "Want me to read the documents out loud, Frank? Because I will. Right here. In front of everyone." My father's jaw clenched. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Someone near the back muttered, "Maybe we should go." "No," I said, louder now. "Everyone can stay. Because this isn't just about the house. It's about 5 years of being erased. 5 years of being told I complicate things. 5 years of watching my parents pretend I didn't sacrifice everything to keep them afloat." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We never asked you to do that." "You didn't have to ask," I said. "I did it because I loved you. Because I thought family meant something." "It does," my father started. "Then why am I not invited to my own brother's party?" I interrupted. "Why am I not part of this legacy you're so proud of?" Silence. Thick. Suffocating. Colton looked down at his shoes. Amber tugged at his sleeve, whispering, "Maybe we should just." "No," Colton said, shaking her off. "This is supposed to be my day." "It was never your day," I said quietly. "It was always theirs. You're just the prop they're using to rewrite history." His face crumpled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then my father stepped down from the porch, getting in my face. "You want to ruin this?" he hissed. "Fine. But don't expect to ever be welcome here again." I looked him in the eye. I stopped expecting that 3 days ago. My father turned back to the crowd, trying to salvage what was left of his moment. "Everyone, I'm sorry for this disruption," he said, forcing a smile. "Family disagreements happen, but today is about celebrating Colton." "Frank, stop," Aunt Lorraine said, stepping forward. "Just stop." He blinked. "Excuse me." "You can't just gloss over this," she said, gesturing toward me. "If what Raymond's saying is true, if Danielle saved this house, then you owe her more than a dismissal." Other voices joined in. "Is that true, Frank? Did she really pay it off? Why wouldn't you tell anyone?" My father's face turned crimson. "This is private." "You made it public the moment you threw a party to give away a house that isn't yours to give," Uncle Raymond said flatly. My mother was crying now, covering her face with her hands. Colton looked at her, then at me, then at my father. "Dad, is this true?" My father's shoulders sagged. "It's complicated." "It's not complicated," I said. "I paid the mortgage. I saved the house. They decided to thank me by pretending I didn't exist." "We didn't pretend," my mother started. "You banned me from the party, Mom," I said, my voice breaking. "You told me I was too independent to deserve a piece of this family. What do you call that?" She didn't answer. The DJ had packed up. People were leaving now, quietly, awkwardly, mumbling goodbyes and avoiding eye contact. Aunt Lorraine hugged me on her way out. "I'm sorry, honey," she whispered. "I didn't know." "Nobody did," I said. Natalie followed, squeezing my hand. "You did the right thing." Within 20 minutes, the backyard was nearly empty. Just me, Uncle Raymond, my parents, Colton, and Amber, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the grass. My father finally spoke, his voice low and bitter. "You've ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything," I said. "You did. The moment you decided I was disposable." "We never said that." "You didn't have to." Uncle Raymond stepped between us. Here's what happens next, Frank. You're going to sit down with a lawyer, someone neutral, and we're going to review the ownership agreements. If you want to buy Danielle out, you can make an offer. If you want to sell the house and split the proceeds, we can do that too. But you don't get to hand it to Colton like it's a gift. That's not how this works. My father looked at Uncle Raymond with pure hatred. You've always favored her. I've always favored the truth, Uncle Raymond replied. Colton finally found his voice. So, I don't get the house. You never had the house, I said quietly. None of us do. Not the way Dad made it sound. He looked devastated. And part of me, just a small part, felt bad for him. But not enough to back down. My mother wiped her eyes. What do you want, Danielle? I looked at her for a long moment. I want you to see me, I said. I want you to acknowledge what I did. And I want you to stop pretending I don't matter. She didn't respond. I turned and walked toward the gate. Uncle Raymond followed. Behind us, the party was over. And so was the lie. 2 weeks later, I sat in a lawyer's office in downtown Cedar Falls. My parents sat across from me. Uncle Raymond sat beside me. The lawyer, a woman named Judith Brennan, had spent the last hour reviewing the documents, the payment history, and the ownership agreements. Now she looked at my father. Mr. Walsh, she said, based on the legal framework established 5 years ago, Danielle holds a 60% ownership stake in the property. You and your wife hold 40%. Any transfer of the property requires her consent. My father's face was stone. My mother stared at her hands. Additionally, Judith continued, because Danielle made all mortgage payments for 5 consecutive years, she has a legal claim to reimbursement if the property is sold or transferred. So what are our options? My mother asked quietly. Judith glanced at me. That depends on what Danielle wants. Everyone looked at me. I took a breath. I don't want the house, I said. I never did. I just wanted to help. My father scoffed. Then why are we here? Because you tried to erase me, I said. And I needed you to understand that you can't. Silence. Judith cleared her throat. There are 3 options. 1. The property is sold, and proceeds are divided according to ownership stakes. 2. Mr. and Mrs. Walsh buy out Danielle's share at fair market value. 3. Danielle buys out your share. My father's jaw tightened. We can't afford option 2. Then it's option 1, I said. My mother's eyes widened. You want us to sell the house? I want you to stop pretending you can do whatever you want without consequences, I said. You made a choice. Now you have to live with it. Uncle Raymond leaned forward. Or, there's a 4th option. Everyone turned. Danielle signs over her ownership stake, he said, in exchange for a formal, written acknowledgement of what she contributed, and a guarantee that she's included in all future family decisions. My father looked skeptical. That's it. That's it, I said. I don't need the house. I just need you to stop treating me like I don't exist. My mother's face softened. Danielle, we never meant. Yes, you did, I interrupted gently. But if you're willing to change, so am I. Judith drafted the agreement on the spot. My parents signed. I signed. Uncle Raymond witnessed. And just like that, it was over. We walked out of the office into the afternoon sun. My father stopped on the sidewalk. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for what I said, for how we handled this. I looked at him. I don't need an apology, Dad. I just need you to remember what I did. He nodded. My mother hugged me, tentatively at first, then tighter. We'll do better, she whispered. I hope so, I said. Colton texted me that night. I'm sorry too. I didn't know how much you did. Thank you. I didn't respond right away. But eventually, I wrote back, you're welcome. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I could breathe. The house stayed in the family. But the story? The story was finally mine to tell.